Welcome to Grit, Grace, and Resilience. I'm your host, Michelle DeGrange. I'm a corporate leader, mentor, life coach in training, and a mom to what feels like 37 kids. Just kidding, only 6. Apparently, all that qualifies me to overshare on the internet. Every one of us has a story of overcoming, and this podcast is here to dig into those and talk about life and what overcoming with grit, grace, and resilience looks like. If you like things a little messy and sometimes a little unhinged, you'll fit right in. Welcome. We're glad you're here. Welcome to Grit, Grace, and Resilience. I am so unbelievably grateful and excited to get to share with you a story that continues to inspire me at such deep levels. My friend Michelle Short, who I have admired for years now and have a much better appreciation for her story and what she has gone through with the changes in my life. And she is doing something that is so incredible that will change care in this entire community. So I want to share that with you. So today we have Michelle Short. Welcome, Michelle.
Thank you so much for having me. It's an honor to be here with you.
Oh, I'm so grateful. I would love for you to take us back and kind of talk about the beginning of the experience of raising your son with disabilities and what that was like for you and what led you to the point to be able to even start to think about creating something like Riley's Home, a place for disabled children, adults, that is a completely different concept than we have ever seen in these communities.
So Riley was born perfectly healthy and normal. 6 months old, he had his checkup and hit every milestone. Everything was great. I had his two older brothers were 10 and 7 at the time, so they were pretty independent, as far as like not needing so much care like little ones do. And 2 days after he had his vaccinations, he started having seizures. And I didn't know that's what they were. They looked like startle reflexes to me. They looked like maybe he was just a little drowsy and kind of falling asleep. And so he kind of like twitch and stuff. And then he did it in clusters. And anyway, we went to the emergency room and they said, yeah, he's having seizures. And at that point, I was just trying to like find out like why and what do we do? How can we stop him? And so your whole thing is just like trying to help your baby, right? And so for 3 years, we couldn't get his seizures under control. We couldn't get a diagnosis. And so it was just a mad, crazy time to try and find experts and
Uh-huh.
different tests that we could do and different places we could go. I took him to Detroit. I took him to UCLA for testing to see if there's something they could find out what he could do or what they could do for him. And any kind of medication. He was probably on 20 different medications at the time. They just kept, adding more and more medication to try and stop him. Something would work for a while and then it would stop working. So they'd add another one. And anyway, it was hard because I was a single mom for my other two boys for so long. And then when I met Riley's dad, he fell in love with my boys and that's why I fell in love with him. But he had never had children, so he wanted to have one and we were engaged and stuff. But when Riley was 6 months old and got sick, his dad was pretty much MIA. He couldn't handle it. So it was now just the boys and I. And I ran 3 mortgage offices for Guild Mortgage at the time, and I was super busy with that. And my boys went with their dad every other week. And so it was a battle of like, I knew I didn't want my older boys' lives to change because I had a son that was sick. Their brother was sick. And so I tried to maintain their lifestyle as much as I could as far as like play dates and me going to all their games and taking them to all their practices and stuff. And so the weeks that I had them, I made sure that I was present for them as best I could. But I was also in the hospital with Riley 90% of the time. So it was me going back and forth and working from the hospital room. Thank God my job allowed me to do that, to where I didn't have to skip a beat and call in sick and ask for coverage. I mean, I was in the morning
Rare.
business. Yes, very rare. So thank God I had that. So I was able to be with them, but it was tough because even at that time, their dad has always been somebody that wants to alienate the other parent. And so I know there's a term for that. I can't think of what it is right now, but it's
You know
basically,
exactly what you're talking about.
yeah, so it's parent alienation, right? And so he was like, well, now that your mom has Riley and he's sick, she's not going to have enough love for you. So you might as well come live with me and your mom. So it was constantly battling and defending myself as their mother, that I wanted them there and stuff. And that was like ongoing. And it's still 28 years later, still a battle with him. And the kids are grown. So that's
So
always been a really hard thing. And then you put in the fact that you have a baby that you don't know what's wrong with them and you can't stop what's going on. And you hear all the horrific things that are gonna happen with mental retardation, probably will never walk, will probably never talk, and just a whole laundry list of things and all the side effects that the medication is doing, like, you just feel like you're in such a isolated room by yourself and you don't know how to function, but yet you have to, right? As a parent, you have to. You have to take care of the other kids, and I didn't want my older boys to ever see me crumble or, be, you know, I mean, they saw me sad, but they didn't see me break down. They didn't see me because I didn't want them to have the responsibility to put me back together. I wanted them to be children and not have to worry about what was going on with mom. They knew their brother was sick, but they didn't know to what extent, it would be. Um,
What
so
was
just
that like for you as a caregiver? I mean, I have such a different level of appreciation now on what going through something so traumatic and these stages that it
oh,
takes you through. What were
yeah,
you doing for you, if anything, during that time?
I did a lot of praying. And I've always been a believer in God. I'm very faithful. I haven't read the Bible completely, so I'm not, I couldn't quote scriptures to you, but I knew that my faith was what was going to get me through that. And it was just like I know that He wouldn't put me through something that I couldn't get through. Like I knew there was a purpose. I knew Riley's life had a purpose too, but I didn't know what it was, right? Because people would be like, "Well, if you believe in God, like why would He do this something to somebody that's so innocent? Like Riley doesn't deserve this." I'm like, it's not. That's not the way you look at it. You look at it that there's purpose in this, and Riley is the most pure person you could ever meet. His little soul is just so sweet, and he's a blessing, and he's taught us all so many wonderful things about life and just what's really important and stuff. But I think what kept me going, in all honesty, besides God, is my older boys, because I had to live for them. Like I couldn't break down for them. I couldn't not provide for them. I was the sole provider. Like I'm the one that had insurance for them, and I'm the one that made sure that they had all their clothes and all the things that they needed for school. And, I'm the one that planned all the birthday parties and all that stuff. So they really don't know how much they saved my life back then and kept me going.
It's amazing to hear your story and think through, like, I've always envied your faith so incredibly much. I think that sometimes it feels like standing on the cliff of the Grand Canyon and you're like, oh, I want to feel that. I want to trust like that, that I see in you. And in being God's plan, like that experience, do you feel like that is what has led you to this point that you realized or had an idea to create something for families and caregivers that were so exhausted? And so, I mean, you were juggling all of it,
Yeah.
single, on your own, and making sure that everybody was staying above the waterline. Like, how did you even do that?
Yeah. I think that, again, going back to the fact that my boys needed me and I wanted them to make sure that they were taken care of. I had a job that I had to do that I had to provide insurance for all three boys because their dad didn't have insurance. So it was like I could be buried by this real quick and doctors would stop seeing Riley and, all these things. And so it was just a thing like, okay, people would be like, "Well, what are you gonna do if he doesn't walk? What are you gonna do if he doesn't talk? What are you gonna do when he gets older?" And it's like those I know people mean well, but those are super hard questions that we don't have the answers to. We are literally trying to make it through the next few minutes, the next hour, the next day. Like we're getting by and it's baby steps and stuff. And so I would just say, we'll just cross that bridge when we get to it. Like right now, I'm going to get through today. And then that was kindly them, my way of being, please don't ask that question. It's a very hard question for us parents to answer because we don't know. We don't know what we're doing. Like, and we sit
Yeah,
alone and we cry and we crumble and we break down and stuff. But then we know that that alarm goes off in the morning and you have to get up and you have to get your other kids up and you have to get them dressed and you have to give them the best life that you can give them. And same thing with Riley. Like, this isn't Riley's fault, right? And it's like you're never upset with him. You're upset with the situation, and the
it's
fact that the lack of help, the lack of support, the lack of knowledge, and just like you're just spinning. And even going to the doctor's offices and making all the appointments, and that was a full-time job. I mean, I
totally.
sent the lady that I went to, Dr. Shugani in Detroit, Michigan. He was an expert that I wanted to get Riley into, and he was booked for like a year. I mean, just couldn't even get in a consultation with him. And I sent flowers to his receptionist every Tuesday for months, and then she finally called me and said, "There was a cancellation, can you make it next week?" I said, "Absolutely." And it was just that, like, I'm not giving up, whatever it takes, like, she's gonna remember my name, she's gonna remember who I am no matter what, and so, it was things like that where I'm like, I had to, I guess, just, like, whatever it took, right? 'Cause it's for your babies, so but yeah, I wanted to show the boys that I had just as much drive to keep them happy and, attend their games and stuff. And sometimes I take Riley with us and, like at football games when they're stomping on the bleachers because they made a touchdown or something. Oh man, that would send Riley into the worst seizure. So I mean, so I had to quit doing
Ugh,
that. So it's like, so the boys knew that I was there, but then they would be upset that I couldn't be there. But then they'd kind of understand me because I knew it was Riley needed me too. But I didn't realize how much that affected them until now that they're adults and we talk about it, and even
yeah.
though they understand they love Riley, like, they love Riley, they still have that sense of abandonment from me because I had to choose their brother over them over and over again.
Was there a tipping point that you got to that you were like, "Okay, maybe I can't do it all, or
Mhm.
I need additional help." Is that kind of what led into Riley's place?
Yeah, so there was 2 things, so in 2012, I had to file bankruptcy because, I mean, I wiped out my 401k to take care of Riley's medical needs, and his medications, and I took him to a naturopath that none of that stuff was covered by them, so I had to pay for it out of pocket. And in the state of Washington, they weren't sending you to collections anymore. They were garnishing your checking and savings accounts. And so I would get served probably once every couple weeks of them taking thousands of dollars out of my checking account because I owed a doctor bill or something. And so I ended up filing bankruptcy. And even though I made really good money, in Seattle, I was shelling out a lot of money just to have somebody take care of Riley. It was $24 a month because I couldn't take him to daycare and I couldn't take him to work,
Right.
to meet clients and stuff all the time. So that was a thing where I decided to move to Idaho. And I had to ask my boys, do you want to move with me, or do you want to stay? I don't want to make you, I selfishly want to make you go with me because I don't want to be away from you. But at the same time, like, you're old enough to decide what you wanna do, and so I made it work. I moved to Idaho with Riley. Cost of living was just cheaper. I had married my 2nd husband, and so it made sense. He couldn't move. The boys, wanted to stay. We built a home for them to come up the one they want to. They had their own
Yeah.
bedroom. Long story short, fast forward to 2019, divorced for the 2nd time, which was also difficult. So back alone with Riley. I ended up having a grand mal seizure at downtown Boise in
Ugh.
a grocery store, Trader Joe's. Never had a seizure before, didn't know what was going on. Woke up in the emergency room. They're telling me that I had a seizure, split my head open. They're literally stapling my head as they're telling me what's happening. And a few weeks later, I found out I had a brain tumor. And my initial thought wasn't, oh my gosh, what's going to happen to me? What does this mean? My initial thought was like, who's going to take care of Riley? And
Right.
all panic set in because I'm just like, I don't know if it's benign, I don't know if it's malignant, I don't know how bad this is gonna be, like, I mean, I already couldn't drive because after you have a seizure, you legally can't drive for 3 months, right?
Yep.
So, now it was just him and I at home, and he started having breakthrough seizures, so we were like the blind leading the blind at my house, right? He's having seizures, I'm having seizures, so it's like, what do you do? But, yeah, so that's really where Riley's residence started from, was like, okay, if something was to happen to me, what happens to Riley? My parents are in their 70s. That's not going to be a long term solution. Tanner, my oldest son, was in the Marines. My middle son just started college. Those weren't options. Riley's dad's not in the picture. There's nobody else close to me that could take Riley. And I love Riley. Riley is my whole entire world, right? And as much as he's a blessing, he really is a burden because he's not ever going to grow up and move out and be on his own. He's not ever going to be, independent to where he can live by himself. And so whoever I ask to take him on, it's a lifelong change, as you know, that's just not going to be for a few years. And so how do you even ask somebody that? And
And
so,
one that I imagine the fear sets in too, that anybody you select is gonna pass away before Riley does.
right.
So it's not even just one, right? Then it's
No,
it's
yeah.
multiple.
It's your, as a parent with healthy kids, right? Like,
Yeah.
our biggest fear is outliving our kids. Like, we want our kids to outlive us, hands down,
Yes.
unless you're a parent of a special needs child that you have nobody
Yeah.
else to take care of, then you wanna outlive your child because, like, there's nobody that can take care of them the way you can. Nobody will, who's going to clothe them? Who's going to feed them what they want? Who's going to know their moods? Who's going to do the things that they enjoy or know when they're sad or know when they're happy? Like, who's going to know that?
That is the most selfless thing I think I've ever heard, Michelle. Like it brings me to tears, like, because I get that as a mom on such a deep level, you would never want to outlive your kids, but that feeling is bigger than anything to
Yeah.
that sacrifice, because that has got to be the most painful experience I would imagine to lose a child.
Oh, yeah. I cannot. I've had friends that have lost children, um, and I don't know how they live. I know they're never the same, right? Like, how could they be? But
But
the
that
fear,
selfless feeling to say,
yeah.
I would rather not outlive my child so that I can make sure that I take care of him. That's big,
Thank you. It's real, and a lot of parents feel that way because they just
I'm
don't.
sure.
It's just, it's too hard to bear the thought of what's going to happen. You hear about all the abuse. You hear about these people that are just merely surviving. They're not thriving. They're not doing anything other than sitting in a home. So when I went through that, that's when Riley's Rent started. I started thinking about it. And then right after I had brain surgery in December of that same year, um, I was able to go back to work at the end of January, which happened to be January 2020, right? So I was
Okay.
back to
Oh,
work for about 3 weeks and then everything shut down, but COVID hit. So now I didn't have a caregiver. I'd already been at home with Riley for 5 months. And I wasn't able to take him to the gym anymore because he had aged out. Even though he's cognitively like a 9-month old, he hit the 13, so could no longer go to the gym. Um, and so I didn't have any reprieve. I didn't have any help. I mean, I was with him all the time, 24/7. And as easy as he is as far as behavior and stuff, it was still just so hard. I mean, like, he felt isolated. I feel isolated. You see all your friends and family and people moving on and doing things and, exciting and social media, people doing all these things and even going out for a drink last minute or going to lunch with a friend or you don't get to do that. So that was super hard. And then when everybody's able to come back to work, caregivers weren't coming back to work because they were making more money on unemployment. Now they were able to take care of their own children because they didn't have to put them in daycare or have pay a babysitter, and they were getting unemployment. And when you're making $12, $13 an hour, what would you choose? So that's a no-brainer, right? So then I remember laying in bed and felt like I was losing my mind. So I called my caseworker. I'm like, listen, I'm losing my mind. Like, I need to get some help. Like, I don't have anybody to help me. Like, what do I do? And she said, Michelle, she goes, have you thought about putting Riley in a home? I'm like, absolutely not. Like, that would be over my dead body. Like, until I die, no way. Right. And she goes, I think you should just consider it. You don't have to. She goes, there's a home in Twin Falls 2 hours away. Like, that's even harder, you know? And she goes,
totally.
but this home, she goes, the turnover rate is so low. Residents have been there for 10 plus years. People that have worked there have been there for 10 plus years. I mean, this turnover, the beds just don't open up in this home. And I was like, okay. And Marty and I had just started dating my husband now. And I was talking to him about it. And he's like, you can't do that, not knowing that it was like just trying to be support, like, we'll make it work.
Right.
Right. And I'm like, well, I think we should just go look at it. Something said, go look at it. So we drove Riley to Twin Falls. We met with the house staff and we met with the residents that lived there. And they were all amazing. They were all super sweet. And I met with the teacher at the school that he'd go to. And it was a nice school. It was, everything seemed to be nice. And I had to make a decision in a week. I had 1 week to decide because that bed was going to be taken up. And so I came
Do you
home.
think that was helpful because you had a deadline to
Yeah.
push you over? Because that seems like a really hard decision to make.
Oh, the anxiety that it would have built up if I had more time and just
Hmm.
the more, yeah. And so because I had to choose so quickly, I prayed and like, okay, my life isn't working out the way it is right now. So I can choose to make this decision and then it's not something that's concrete. So if it doesn't work out, I can always bring him home. So there was nothing that was like I have to do it for a certain amount of time or anything like that. That was reassuring. So I did it. And what I did is I moved his whole room over to his room there. And so I did it because I wanted him to have familiarity rather than to me have
Hmm.
stuff of his that belonged there, right? Because selfishly, I want to keep all his stuff the way it was so that when he came home, but at the same time, I knew that he needed that for his comfort and stuff. So that was hard because I'd walk by his room and nothing was there. He
Yeah.
wasn't there. His toys weren't there. His pictures weren't there. So that was super hard. And I remember being very suicidal. Like, for the
Yeah.
first time, I had a break and I felt guilty and I felt
Can
ashamed.
only imagine.
I didn't tell hardly anybody that I moved into a home, just only the very, very closest people to me, because I couldn't bring myself to admit that I needed help and that I couldn't do it on my own anymore. And only because he was only 14 at the time, so he was still young. I thought maybe when I was 70 or something like that, that would happen, but not at this age. So there's a lot of shame, huge amount of guilt, and and then just the thoughts of like, now what do I do? Like you lose your whole identity. My whole identity has been wrapped around being a mom for so many years, and then especially being Riley's mom, special needs mom, and doing all these things and making all these decisions and stuff. And now you have all this time in the world to yourself, and you don't even want it. It's crazy.
I can only imagine is like mothers without disabled children. I mean, I can get that to a degree just with the neurodivergence and, that I parent. It does. It becomes every single thing that you do, your thought process, every part of your day is built around other people. And I think mothers struggle with that in general, but I imagine a high needs. There's literally nothing that you do or have time for yourself because your entire focus is on someone else.
Oh, for sure. Even when I did have care, right? And even when I did
Yeah.
was able to get away, because I did have care for a while and was able to get away and do things myself, but you're still constantly, did they give him his medicine? Did they make sure that he's eating?
Mhm.
Did he go to sleep? And so you're always checking on him, like you do as a parent anyway. But when it's, like you said, the higher needs, it's more, it's always there. So you're always
Yeah.
thinking and stuff. So you're not really present with anything
Yeah.
else. And so, yeah, that part's definitely hard. Um, so my whole thought was, okay, so if there was something that was to happen to me back in 2019 when I got diagnosed, my number one thing is like, what's going to happen to Riley, right? The second thing is
Mhm.
like, okay, even getting, I had to have brain surgery. And so I had brain surgery on December 20th. Um, and Riley was back with me on December 26th. So I had 6 days, basically, 5.5 days to get through surgery, go to the hospital, come home, recoup as much as I could. And then I was on my own with him again. And I'm thinking, okay, there has to be something that parents need medical attention. They need a break. They need to reconnect with their other children or their spouse or just to be alone, to not have to change diapers or give medicine or feed somebody. I mean, that is just such a heavy burden day in and day out that there has
And
to
people that you can trust, right? Like I even think about it with neurodivergent kids,
Mhm.
and getting someone that's can come in and take care of them that if they're misbehaving or, being typical young kids or fighting or arguing or, we'll have instances where they punch or they hit each other.
Yeah,
It's it's almost more exhausting to try to have help that then comes back with judgment or ridicule or why are they acting this way or why are they doing that? Because they're neurodivergent kids.
right.
Because it's hard.
Exactly.
That fear of all the backlash and all that, or getting the phone calls, right? Like, I can't deal with this, or I can't handle this, or, you know, it's more exhausting sometimes to get help that comes with such strings attached
Yeah.
than if you could just have qualified people to be able to actually go away for a week without worrying about, are they being cared for? Is there going to be backlash? Is there going to be issues? Are you going to have to hear about it later because they were misbehaving or they were doing this from someone that is family, right?
Right.
Or something like that with all the baggage that comes along with that. Experience that significantly firsthand and it's really hard because they're not there all the time. They
No.
don't know how to handle every situation or deal with every situation or just understand that they're just kids or this is how they are with neurodivergence or with, handicap
Yeah.
situations. Like that had to be so scary and so exhausting at the same time.
Just change alone for children, even healthy,
Mhm.
normal children is hard, right? But then you have near the children with special needs and stuff, and it's harder. Like they don't adjust as well. It's the routine is off or something's off. It could be something small, it could be something significant, but we don't understand it because we don't live in that world.
Or
Um,
they always get sick. I
yeah,
don't know if you found this.
yeah,
Anytime you try to go away, someone has a crisis.
yeah,
Someone gets sick.
yeah.
Someone
It's
throws a tantrum. Somebody cries, whatever.
yeah.
And you're like, this is. this
Yeah.
is like not even worth it. It's more work.
You get the phone calls so you're finally
Mhm.
and then you can't have fun because you're just constantly worrying like, "Oh gosh, they're too much for this person," or
Yeah.
and then it's just you don't have a good time anyway. So,
Hmm.
yeah, for Riley's residents, we wanna put peace and we wanna give family hope 'cause that's our biggest thing, right? Is that we want to have a place to where people of all ages with special needs can come and live long term, or they can come and live for short term for respite care for their loved ones. So respite care would be anything from like, "Hey, I wanna book 1 weekend a month for my child or children," and, or, "Hey, in 2026, we've got 2 vacations coming up. I wanna book them on this week and that week," whatever. And then we have the staff that is knowledgeable in all needs, right? So that we know, okay, so these are the children that need this, and they need that, and this is a dietary, parameters, whatever they need, we have that. And what we want to invite in this community, because we're building a development. So the development's going to be the center of it will be the community center, the aquatic center, and the wellness center. So that's going to have all the therapies that they need. So occupational, speech, physical therapy, aquatic therapy, music therapy, art therapy. We'll have a huge amount of sensory rooms for autistic children. We want to bring spellers into the belly so that they have that available to them. Then we're going to have the gymnasium for them. So those are activities when it's too hot outside or it's too cold outside that there's still things that they can be active in there. Then we'll have a huge oversized garden that's gonna be a farm to table concept so that children and people have better food that is not full of preservatives and things that make their behaviors worse and their guts worse and their brains worse and stuff. So, and we'll have a big playground, and that's gonna be right in the center of development. And then we're gonna have intimate care facilities on these lots. So those can house up to 14 children and 14 people in a home. So we'll have several of those, and then we're gonna have 2
Does
or
that
3.
mean their caregivers would stay with them, or what does that mean? What does
So
that look
intimate
like?
care facility is basically like a group home. So you have 14 people living there and they have staff that don't live there, but they have like graveyard shifts. So they have rotating shifts that come in, right? So
Okay.
nobody actually lives there other than the people, but they have shifts and they're all qualified to take care of people of all needs and stuff and all ages. So health and welfare is, they're very particular in all their rules and regulations. They don't allow anything over 15 rooms. Anything over 15 rooms is considered an institution. They don't allow those in Idaho anymore. So we thought, okay, how do we get around that? Well, we built a development and every house has its own address. It's a separate lot. So there's 14 rooms in I'm sorry, 14 beds in each house. So that helps, right? So those are and then we're going to have homes for foster children with special needs. They need more counseling. They need more therapies because there's been trauma involved
Yeah.
mostly, right? And so, when I was doing the building with multiple levels, that was going to be hard to invite the foster kids in there because they would be together with the other people, and really
Uh-huh.
hard to manage because they've had more trauma typically. Some of them been adopted and then given back because they can't take it or they don't have help or what have you. So now have a space for them that they can stay there as long as they need to, and they have all the access to all the other therapies and things that all the other people have. And then when they age out of the system, if they still need to stay on at Valley's residence, they can just go into an intimate care facility or into the more independent living that we'll also be building on the development. So those will be like two-bedroom homes that people that are higher needs or higher functioning, but can't quite live alone, they can live there with their staff. And so those will be two-bedroom duplexes or two-bedroom cottages that will be there. So depending on where the foster person is when they turn 18, if they're more independent, they can move into one of those homes or they can move into an ICF home, depending on where they're at. But we listened to parents, and a lot of parents said, my child can do a lot, but they could never live by themselves. So I worry what happens. And I'm like, okay. So we do that with, more independent living. And so that they have that sense of community of independence, but they do still have their staff there available to them. So that's how we help them. So everybody that we want to help now we can by doing a development versus doing a single building.
It's like you've literally thought through everything that, like a dream, like an absolute vision of comprehensive, complete care. What have been the hardest pieces of training? Because that, I mean, that I assume this has come over time because that is a very complex, like you are putting together something that is so layered that is touching every need.
The hardest thing is through health and welfare, there's just very regulated, right? And so you have to become a provider because most people couldn't afford to have their children or loved one live in a facility like this because it's so expensive. And so trying
Yeah.
to get through and navigate their rules and regulations and their policies and procedures and everything. But the way that we have it now, it eliminates all that. So it's like it makes everybody happy. We met with the city of Meridian to make sure that we could do a development like this because there's nothing like this in the United States anywhere. And so they're like, yes, we love it. We're all on board. Let us know what we can do to help you. If you find a piece of property, we'll be happy to look for it to make sure that it's everything that you need it to be and stuff. So it's talking people and not letting other people sway you. So when you have a nonprofit and you tell people your vision, they also have visions. And when they
Imagine.
talk to you about that, they want you to see their vision and change your game plan or your business plan to meet their need. And so what I've learned to do is I'm able to decipher that a lot sooner now. But in the past, I was sit down and I would have meetings and stuff, and we'd go on like 2 or 3 meetings, and then realize that they're trying to change my mind and my business plan to meet theirs. And so now I simply tell them, I wish you the best of luck. What you have is an amazing idea, and I will be your biggest cheerleader. It's just not in alignment with what I'm doing. And so, I feel like you go do your thing and I'll do my thing, and that will be good. And so I don't let them interrupt me anymore. I learn how to gently tell them, I'm happy for you, do your thing, I'm going to do my thing. And don't not that I don't want other input, that's not what I'm saying. I have a vision. I know what families need because that's what I've lived, right? Like I've never been a paid caregiver for anybody else. I've never ran a ICF home or anything like this, but I have experience as a parent, which I think is more valuable in this arena than anybody else's experience because we live it, breathe it, we're everything about it. We know what our kids need. We know what bad care looks like. We know what good care looks like. So my experience and then with the people that we have on our team now are just in and it's growing, right? So, but yeah, the interruptions are really loud sometimes. And then you feel like you're on the wrong track because they get so loud. But that's when you have to come back to your faith and say, okay, God, like I need you to tell me like which way am I going? And then you listen to his voice and not their voice. And then it makes it easy.
You feel like getting through like the support. That is incredible that the city is being so supportive because I have to imagine like I've worked in healthcare for decades,
Yeah.
how challenging the healthcare system can be to navigate. And I would assume that is the biggest fear for parents is how would I be able to afford a system
Oh,
like
yeah.
that? So is this multi-layered where like you're getting some funding from multiple sources like city or government or different grants and charities to be able to pull it all together?
Yeah, so far we've done our fundraisers have been the biggest ones, so donations, private donations, right? But now that we have our business model and we know what we're doing, Riley's residents, so like the aquatic center, the community center, all that's going to stay nonprofit. And then the homes that we're building are going to be for profit. And the reason why we're doing that is not so that my husband and I can retire. And I will never draw a salary from this ever. Like that's not my goal. I will never take money out of the nonprofit ever. And so for us to get investors involved and get them on so that we can build faster is to make this a for profit because companies donating to nonprofits, they get the tax write off, but it's not something they're eagerly willing to do at this
Yeah.
level, right? But people with investors, they want to look at what the ROI is.
ROI.
So if they can see that, oh, okay, so we have these ICF homes that other companies actually rent from us, and then we're going to be paid on billable hours based on a certain percentage of each person living there, that's a rate of return. So now we can see that. So yeah, we'll help fund this, and it might end up being private funding. It might be a holding company. I have a pitch deck that I'm going to start working on, on in meetings and stuff. So we're setting those up. But yeah, it's going after the investors and looking at this and knowing that this is going to be the flagship development here in Idaho and that we'll take it throughout the state, but then throughout the United States is our goal because everywhere needs it. It's so needed and the people that will be living there deserve it. Their families deserve it. The caregivers that are working there, they deserve it. They deserve to have a place that they can build a career, get paid well. We have created a certification program. Ashley Payton is the gal that's going to be heading that up for us. So
Okay.
anybody that works in our development will have to go through the certification program, and it's a mentorship program as well. So it not only gets them certified on how to care, but it gets them a mentorship program that they learn how to be mentors to raise these people up and to empower them to the full capacity. I mean, my dream, honestly, Michelle, is to have more people be able to move out on their own or move back in with their families and become more independent than to stay at Riley's residence forever. We don't want to keep them there. We want to keep them as independent, as empowered to go get jobs, to go get other roommates, to go move on in life and not be here. But we don't know what that capacity is because
Mhm.
isolated, right? Like I have families that have told me like they didn't realize that their child was so smart and like wrote poetry or that they wrote songs or anything like this until they were older and got them help to learn how to communicate. And so there's a lot of people that we don't know because we're in our own world, our own little we live our life the same every day, right? And
Mhm.
so I'm not musically inclined, so I would never introduce that to Riley. I'm not the greatest artist, so I wouldn't so when you have all these different options and we see and not just look at what they're not able to do, but what are they able to do? And let's focus on that. Are they able to draw? Are they able to play music? Are they able to go mentor another child like Riley? So we have people that are going to be higher functioning. If they want to work at the facility and they want to go and mentor somebody like Riley, then John, who's independent, can come and get Riley and wheelchair him over to his therapies and take him to the gymnasium afterwards and to be his mentor for the day. Or if they want to work in the garden or they want to work at the aquatic center, I mean, we're going to have all kinds of, we'll have a theater room that will turn into a worship room on Sundays, I mean, so there's going to be so many opportunities for them to live a full and happy life to the ultimate greatest that they can.
Incredible and so genius, Michelle. I mean, especially when you think about those foster programs, those kids, like I mean, you're doing it right now. When you serve, you grow.
Yeah.
So that experience for mentorship is going to grow those kids and help give them skills that they can then take and be on their own. It will help create that independence towards living a really healthy, self-fulfilled, functional life.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
We all want purpose, right? I mean, we
Mhm.
talk about this as parents when our kids, our older kids leave homes, like, now what's my purpose? Like, what do I do? Like, I'm an empty nester but when you have purpose, then life makes sense. And that's what our biggest thing is like, it starts with obviously our residents, but it's more important that our caregivers that are working there with them look at it like we want to raise these people up. It's not just a paycheck. This is a career that I want forever. And what we're going to do in turn for them is we'll have on-site daycare for their children. We'll have mental health days for them. We'll have counseling for them because as you know, being a caregiver is tough. It is.
Fatigue. I watched a Mel Robbins podcast. I don't know if you saw that one the other day, and she was talking about caregiver fatigue.
Yeah.
And I was like, holy cow, I absolutely have that
Yeah.
because it is so hard to find care and to truly be able to let your brain relax. And at that level, it has to be exponentially harder.
Oh, yeah. And you have to recharge. And just like you said, Michelle, like
Mhm.
going out to have like a 1 week in a month to where you can just recharge. Everybody needs that. And there's no reason to feel guilty for that. But we have to provide the caregiver because if I don't have good caregivers at this facility, all we're doing is changing the location of these people and
Yep.
going to glorify babysitting. And that's not what I want. We're doing a nonprofit and a for-profit. So the for-profit can basically give back to the nonprofit. That's our whole thing. Like I said, we are not trying to retire off this. My husband has a construction company that's very successful. We're happy with that. This is only to help families and to keep this going and making sure that the caregivers are paid well, making sure that people that have respite that don't get reimbursed have a break, that's what that's paying for. So, we will get grants and we will get all those things and stuff for that. But our big thing is like, how do we have something that we can feed back into it that makes sense that we can get investors, build these things faster, raise money faster, right? And then move on to the next one. So, yeah, that's our goal. And
I get the for-profit part of it. I mean, the reality is if it is for profit, you're going to be able to hire better care,
Mhm.
that better care for everyone. I mean, it's just that trickle effect, right?
Yeah.
Of the facilities will be what you want them to be, the care. You'll be able to pay people enough so that they're happy at work, so that they feel valued, fulfilled. I mean, it really actually makes a lot of sense. I think it's a brilliant plan.
The best caregivers that Riley's had are caregivers that were in high school that worked in the resource room. Ashley Payton was one of them. Amanda Dillon was another one. They're ones that love these children. They volunteered at some point and fell in love with them. Some of them have made a career out of it or tried to and couldn't because it wasn't,
Yeah,
sustainable with the income that they make. So what we're going to do is that we're going to have a volunteer program at the facility as well to where kids in high school can come and volunteer. That way it looks good on their resume. And then they get to be, an environment where we're building a culture that is so amazing that they want to come back and they go to college and then they intern at our facility and then they will end up there as a career. So we want to get them from the high school age into college and then into a
love
career.
that. Maita is this summer here. I'm so proud of her. She has gotten, it's all self driven, gotten her CNA.
That's amazing.
And I mean, what a great opportunity because right now, for those CNA interns, like an opportunity to work with CWI
Yeah.
and work with their internship program because right now the only available option is residential living.
Hmm.
And at 17, for her coming in, she's the youngest in her group.
Wow.
That's been a pretty eye opening, shocking in some areas, like experience. Like, this seems like such an incredible opportunity for CNAs to get very incredible training
Hmm.
in a very well cared for environment.
Yeah, and I mean that again, Ashley lived it. She started out caregiver. She went to get a CNA, and she's actually speaking at our gala. Um,
I'm so sad I won't be there because Andoni's got a football game. And I want, before we are done talking, I want you to tell everybody all about it and make sure that that is something that I hope everybody has an opportunity to go to support such an amazing cause.
No, thank you. Yeah, so she's very passionate about it. I mean, she's all on board. She's actually moving from Big Bear, California, back here just to head this up, and she's bringing her whole family. So she's amazing. Amazing. She adopted two foster children as well. That just went through in January, so she's able to make the move
Wow.
now. So they're working on their house right now to get it sold, so they can to move here, and she can help me. And so when you have somebody that passionate, she was one of the first people that I knew wanted on my team, and so I reached out to her, and she's all in. And so when you have somebody that passionate, it's just going to trickle down, right? Because it starts at the top. Like, how are we going to treat these people? Like, how do we want to be treated? And yeah, we want a place where everybody, not just the residents, but everybody actually thrives and they love it and nobody wants to leave. Like, we want a low turnover rate in all areas, unless it's people moving on to, be more independent, then that's fantastic. But other than that, yeah, we want people to stay with us.
You're building a legacy, Michelle, one that is going to not just transcend this community, but is going to transcend the country, really. Like, I've never heard of anything like this. And I've watched you from afar with such incredible admiration. It gives me goosebumps. And
Thank you.
I can only imagine the strength that it has taken through this journey. You are advocating for families that it is so hard to find your voice when you are neck deep in the level of difficulty and exhaustion and overwhelm.
Yeah.
What do you want families to know? How will they be able to access? Like, when is the timeline on all of this?
So we're hoping that we find a piece of land soon so we can start developing that because that's going to take about a year to develop. So if we get some raw
Mhm.
land that doesn't have the utilities and stuff in it, it'll take about a year. Once we break ground and able to start building, Marty, my husband, will be able to build everything. So he'll be donating a lot of his time and stuff. So that's another thing that's awesome. But it will be 6 months before we can get to the ICF homes done. So that would house 28 people right away. And then in the meantime, we'll be building the wellness center. So that's going to take about probably 9 months to do that part of it. But we can at least fill up the ICF homes, get the culture going with the caregivers and so forth. We do have a waiting list already, so people have
I
already.
wondered. That was my next
Yeah.
question.
Yeah. So there's a waiting list. We have an onboard questionnaire as well because we want to make sure that when we staff, right, we know what we're staffing for. We want to know like what house is going to be best for their loved one. And then the other thing is that as we start building up and people want to bring their children to, or their loved one, whether it's a sibling or whatever, to Riley's residence to participate in some of the activities that we'll have there to acclimate slowly, right? So it's not just a huge transition like, okay, this is where you're going to live. No, they've been coming to activities at Riley's residence. They've been coming to volunteer, or they've been coming to the field days or whatever we have. Then they know, like, oh, these are my buddies. Like, okay, like, yeah. And now I'm going to live here. Okay, cool. So it's more of an easier transition rather than just be like what I did with Riley, where I'm like, okay, drop him off and now we're have a new life, you know? So that will be good for the families too. So our website's up, rileysresidence.org. There's a place there where you can get all the information about us. We have our newsletter that you can sign up for. We have an online questionnaire if you want to put your son or loved one on the daughter on a waiting list. And then anything that we have for events coming up, like we have the gala coming up, our second annual gala is coming up on September 13th at Boise Center. We're super excited about that. Last year,
Tickets are for
Joelle,
sale, I assume.
yes, tickets are for sale, and that's on the website as well. You can, and sponsorships are available as well if somebody wants to sponsor. But I have to brag about my creative director, Joelle Altera. I met her through church function, and her and I just clicked from the time when we met. We saw, like, it was like love at first sight for two friends, right? And so we went to lunch, and she's like, I'm all in to help you, whatever you need. So she built my website. She's helped me with my social media. We got our 501c3 approval from the IRS at the end of June. We're like, okay, we need to put on a gala. So we put a gala on September 28th of last year, and we raised 124,000 in 2 months that we had to plan it, and we only had 80 bidders. So that's a huge accomplishment. We were super excited about it. And now this whole year has just been like, okay, we've had to reconvene about how we're going to build it. So that's why we decided to change it to the community, to development instead of just a single building. And then just getting the word out. We had our golf tournament that was a huge success at Spurwing in June. And now the second annual gala will be unveiling the actual development that CSHQA is working on very tirelessly to make sure that we have it available at the gala so people can actually see what it's going to look like. So
It's
very excited.
so exciting. That is so exciting. They are such a great organization. My dad is an attorney and worked right around the corner, and I actually was going to intern there when I was first getting out of school. Incredible people, incredible work that they're doing.
Jim, yeah, Jim and Juhi have been the main ones. And they, you know, I approached them before the gala last year and what I wanted to do, they were excited and stuff and like, okay. And they did everything. And I said, you know, I know that you have to charge me and that's totally fine. Just let me know what that is and stuff. And they said, yeah, we'll take care of it. And at the end they go, we're donating this time, all of it. And it was like $15,000 worth of time that they donated. And they said, not only are we donating this, but we're going to be with you through the end, like until you get this built. And so that's why they are the main sponsor. They have gone above and beyond and just really believe
It
in us.
gives me goosebumps.
Yeah. So there are good people, good companies out there, and we have them, and it's so amazing because, like I said, even the city of Meridian has been so happy and they're hopeful, and even two of them said, I have family members that would love to live there. You know,
Mhm.
it's amazing how many people need this and want this so badly.
Do you ever see it expanding to also like elder care and just elderly care?
Possibly, yeah. I think that you know, the IDD, so intellectual and developmental disability community, is pretty
Hmm.
broad. And some of them do get into like, okay, so what happens to
Alzheimer's care?
yeah, things like that. Then that qualifies, right? Because now they're not able to.
Yeah.
So it really capacity, right? Because my big
Yeah.
thing is like families that need it. Because there's a lot of elderly care facilities that have like memory loss and things
Hmm.
like that. So I want to make sure that we stay in our lane and that we don't lose sight of what we're trying to do for our family.
Yeah.
So we'll see. It might be something another division. What we have really thought about in working with Dr. Duplay, who is the head of the ICU department here at St. Luke's Hospital, he has a
Okay.
dream of putting together a similar home for kids that have very complex, where they don't ever leave the hospital, like they're in ICU for years, and
Yeah.
he wants to make it more like a home. And so him and I and his nurse Kelly met, and we've talked about it, and it might be something that we can do now because with the ICF homes, that's just for the long-term living, right? We're out with
Right.
Aquatic Center and the Wellness Center, the second floor is going to be respite, but we could potentially put a third floor in there to be for the complex children that never get to leave home. And that would be his whole division. So it would be, he runs that, he has that, we just have space for them. And then that way they have everything
So
that they
cool.
need right there as well. and again, community, and it would feel more like a home. So on our website, there's a really cool video that CSHQ did of the rooms, of what the rooms will look like. And that's what the respite rooms will look like. And that's still going to be the same. So it's a pretty good idea as to what they look like.
That is so
Yeah.
cool. Michelle, you just take my breath away with your grace and your passion and your vision and the legacy that you are leaving this community. You are such an inspiration to everyone, and I know that this has not come easy. I truly firmly have always believed that through all the heartache and through all the pain is where the best stuff grows, even though it is not comfortable. But
Yeah.
it seems to be where we create the most incredible work that we do, and I can see God's hand in all of it. I I'm so proud of you.
Thank you so much. Thank you for that. And I've always admired you too, Michelle. So thank you for giving me this platform and letting me tell my story and stuff. Going back to God and how this all came about is like I didn't find Awaken Church until 2 years ago. And I was sitting there and I grew up Catholic, so it was very hard for me to go into a Christian
We go
charismatic.
there too.
Oh,
We
oh,
go to
do
the
you?
Nampa one.
Oh, we live
Yeah.
in one in Boise, so it's a different
Okay.
Awaken. But anyway, so my husband took me to a church in Texas, and they're very charismatic,
Mhm.
right? And I'm like, okay, these people are crazy. But now I know, like, I love that. But when we went to Awaken, I was prophesied over, which I'd never been before, and I'll have to send that to you. But she
I
basically,
would love it.
I'd never met this woman. We had just started going there. I think this is like the third time that we went there. So we didn't know anybody. Nobody knew our name or anything like that. And she said, she asked me to stand up. She was like asking the dark haired girl in the back of the room. And I'm just like looking around, like, who's she talking to, you know? And she's like, the gal that's sitting next to the man that's wearing a cross. And I'm like looking at, oh, Marty. She's like, yes, you. She stood me up and she says, she goes, you have had something to say for many years and you didn't have the voice to say it, but God's giving you the voice and you're going to tell people now, like, I've been trying to tell you this and this is going to happen and you're going to change generations and you're going to change these lives and stuff. And so that was the first part of it. And I didn't quite know then, but then all these visions for Riley's, you asked me how long it's taken for me to come up with this. It's really the last year and a half that I've had these visions where they're so vivid at church when we're in there. So I have like 3 notepads now that I just scribble on constantly and write these things down, right? And then I went to an internship program there and it's apprenticeship actually. And you have to be invited because you have to go through like an interview process. So not everybody gets to go. And so I got into season 13 and I knew I wanted to do it so I could launch Riley's Residence nonprofit. The second class we're there, everybody has to come up with a name for your group, right? And so everybody's like throwing out names and stuff. And somebody said Valiant. I'm like, okay, so we're Valiant 13. That's fantastic. And then we have our legacy project at the end. And mine was obviously about Riley's Residence and it's past present. Where are you at 10 years from now? Whatever. And so I was looking for something that meant, I never looked at Riley's name because he was going to be Riley if it was a girl or boy. It was always going to be Riley. So I look up his name and the meaning of it is valiant and it's brave,
Yep, make it up.
right? It's like, what a, and
That's incredible.
so that's what Riley's Residence was born out of was Valiant 13 at our church. So I'm going to cry. But then even going further than that, it's like I knew I wanted to have a song that was written about not just the families, about what Riley's Residence brings its hope for, right? And so about 3 weeks ago, I was sitting in church and we have beautiful people that worship and they lead our worship and stuff. But Jeremy Morgado God said he's the one. He's the one that's going to write the song and he's going to sing the song. And so I went and talked to his wife after. I said, hey, I want to talk to Jeremy and ask if he would consider writing a song. I have some lyrics that I want to share with him, but I want to know if he wants to. So will you have him reach out to me? And she goes, absolutely. We met that next Thursday and we sat here and he told me his story and I'll let him tell it, but it's a beautiful story about how he's been stuck and been scared. And now like just the timing of like, this is you and this is what he's done. And he's going to sing it for the first time live. I won't hear it till the day of the gala as well. So it's all going to be brand new, but it's about Riley's Residence and it's from him. And he's like a brother to me. So it's just like, but yeah, God's voice was so loud and it's something that he needed as well. And so he has a really cool story to tell about it too, but I want him to tell it. But yeah.
Because two of the questions that I had for you was, what is your mantra? And if Riley's home had a theme song, what would it be?
Yeah. So you'll hear that. But our mantra is lead with love and thrive with care, right? So we want to always lead with love and we always want to thrive with care. We don't want people just surviving. We want them to, and I don't mean just the residents, I mean the families, the caregivers, everybody thriving. Like we want everybody to live to the capacity, giving hope and purpose. I mean, these are two beautiful things that we all want in our lives. And so That's that's what we wanna leave people with.
I love it. I'm so incredibly proud of you, and I cannot wait and want to be a part of it in any way that I can,
Thank you.
in any capacity. So thank you so much, Michelle. What is the website again?
So it's Riley's Residence, so RILEYSRESIDENCE.org.
I love it. And if people want to donate or volunteer their time during this process, is that where they go to reach out to you?
Yep, everything's on there, and then my email's on there, so they can reach out to me. My phone number is on there. Yeah, they can reach out. I'm on Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn. Anything helps, and, it's the one thing I do wanna talk about is people wanna help often, and they feel like they can't because they can't donate thousands of dollars, and
Right? Totally. That me included, right?
it's like we don't have that capacity, but we do have a voice, right? We all have a voice. And so just talking about it and telling other people about it, because like maybe you can't, maybe your family can't, but friends that know friends or people that know people that have put something like this together. I mean, they know. So I know it's just going to be a trickle effect. And even if it's $5 that people can give, that makes a difference because that adds up. It all adds up. And so I don't want people to think, well, what am I going to do? Because I can't donate this or I can't do this. You can. There's anything that you do, anytime you talk about it, anytime you do anything like that is helping. So it's a big deal. And having me on here was a huge deal. So I really appreciate it so much. And I absolutely adore you and I admire you and everything that you're doing and this and being vulnerable. Strong women do not like being vulnerable.
We do not. We do not like crying in public. We do
No.
not like any of it. It is very uncomfortable.
Yeah.
And this is where we grow. I had a friend call the other day, and I mean, this podcast for me has been wildly uncomfortable, right? So vulnerable. And out of the blue, because I was like, oh, I don't know. Should I keep doing this? Like, what, I'm okay. What do I do? What do I focus on? And out of the blue, she texted me and she said, I just want you to know that I watched your podcast and you inspired me to start a business. And out of nowhere, she said, I want you to know that I was at like a rock bottom for me. And your podcast has given me a completely new light and a new area of focus. And you just need to keep doing what you're doing because it's helping people. And that to me was that's the whole point
Yeah.
of any of it. So
If it's even just one
thank you.
person, right? So
Yep.
you're amazing.
Just
So
one.
yeah,
Just one. And if one person that hears this today gets on a waiting list or tells someone else, or in some way this helps with just communication and awareness of the need that is out there for caregivers and for those living with disabilities, that's our whole job.
exactly. Exactly.
Thank you, friend.
Thank
I
you.
look forward to getting to watch this take place, and I cannot wait for the scissors that are going to come and break the beautiful satin ribbon. It's going to be exciting.
Thank you.
All right. So
Okay.
for next anyone that wants to get involved, please reach out. Please look at their website. Please get involved and share. If this touches you, then share it with somebody who may need it as well.
Awesome.
And thank you always for being here today. We'll talk with you soon.